One fight alone has brought me back. Paddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green. This is a textbook fraud check waiting to happen. Paddy Pimblett, 21-3, amazing record. I really wanted him to get his chance in the UFC. I felt like he always deserved it. But man, he has not been looking too hot lately. Barely scraped by Tony Ferguson, and he gave him his most competitive fight in years. Let's take a look at Paddy's record. Makes it into the UFC. Gets the debut against Luigi. Obviously a great performance. Rodrigo, that was a little embarrassing on the feet, but nonetheless he gets the finish. Jordan Levitt, that one was very impressive to me, but also Jordan Levitt just wasn't, it's not like he was a contender or anything. Jordan Levitt's good though on the ground, so I thought that was a really good win. Jared Gordon, I think that was the fight that showed everybody where Paddy is at, for real. And obviously it was a robbery. And then he goes to a decision with Tony Ferguson, and like I said, the most competitive fight Tony's had in years. Let's look at Tony's record. Good lord. Obviously Gaethje finished him. Charles, decision where he almost got every limb broken. Beneil almost tore his fucking heel in half. Tore his knee apart. Knockout of the year against Michael Chandler, that was horrific. Nate Diaz, that's when it got really embarrassing, honestly. It looked like two old men fighting. Tony did not look like he belonged in the cage anymore. And Bobby Green, who's fighting Paddy next. Bobby Green smoked Tony Ferguson horrifically. That was another one of the fights, like the Diaz one, where Tony just didn't look like he belonged in the cage anymore at all. And then he came back and fought Paddy Pimblett and actually had the most competitive fight he's had since, I'd say since 2020, since he hasn't had a close fight since Cerrone. Well, that was in 2019. Beat up Cerrone, and then Justin Gaethje was a competitive fight. He dropped Gaethje. But man, it's just been all kinds of bad ever since then, obviously. So 4 years now, Paddy gives Tony the most competitive fight he's had in 4 years. Let's go to Bobby Green's record. Obviously mixed stuff, but let's look at who he's lost. Lost to in the last, we'll give it the same time frame, 4 years. Just like Tony. Thiago Moises, who went 5 rounds with Islam. Rafael Fiziev, fight of the night. Islam Makhachev, current champion. You can't take away too much from that. Drew Dober, who does not lose to black people, also earned fight of the night. Jared Gordon, no contest. That was a headbutt, obviously. And either way, it was a more competitive fight than Jared Gordon versus Paddy Pimblett. Then he beat the brakes off of Tony Ferguson. Absolutely demolished him. Then he knocks out Grant Dawson, who was top 10 in the world. Obviously, Jalen Turner, that was a bad performance for him. Quick fight, though. He got caught early. And then beat the absolute dog shit out of Jim Miller. I don't even think Jim Miller would lose to Paddy Pimblett, personally. If you go to Jim Miller, obviously he's older. He hasn't been having the same kind of performances, but look at that record since 2022. 5-2 since 2022. Super active. He's beating guys he should beat, really. Not getting finished by some others like Vince Pichel, Joe Selesky. It's not like Jim Miller's a complete slouch. I think he would give a tougher fight, or be a more competitive fight for Paddy and still win against Paddy, personally. So, I think this is a textbook fraud check. I think Bobby Green's completely underrated when it comes to the ground game. He's not going to get just dusted and subbed in a minute or controlled for the entire fight. He was a wrestler first before anything else, and I don't think a lot of people know that. Paddy, great jiu-jitsu, not the best striking, decent striking, but some bad habits in the striking compared to Bobby, who's just starts flowing and beats the crap out of people. I don't know why they decided this was the fight for Paddy next. I really don't. I mean, I guess we might as well look at the rankings to see who else he could have actually fought. Lightweight rankings. Bobby Green is number 15. I don't see Paddy anywhere here. RDA. Okay, RDA would beat the shit out of Paddy. Jalen Turner, same thing. Benoit, same thing. Dan Hooker, Hanato. Max Holloway, Rafael Fiziev, Benil. Honestly, the best stylistic fight would have been probably Renato Moicano, because he's mainly a jiu-jitsu guy. Or Dan Hooker. I mean, Dan Hooker would probably knock his ass out pretty horrifically. I think Moicano would have been a fight that would have been a little better for him. I think Moicano's better than Bobby Green, but he plays into the jiu-jitsu, which is what you're going to want more if you're Paddy Pimblett's camp. I think that fight would have made a lot more sense for them to agree to. But Bobby Green's going to be able to stop the shots and just beat the dog shit out of Paddy Pimblett. Certified fraud check, coming in hot in Manchester in front of his hometown crowd. Not the best decision making by his camp or the UFC if you want to promote this guy. Yep, that's all I got.